It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Gun Orgy 2023. Yes, the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis, Indiana. Gun fetishists, ammosexuals, AR addicts, mega magazine maniacs, and gunpowder junkies unite. And yes, they are there. And look, all of the GOP attention seekers, all of the people who want to be, something, took the stage on hand to pay homage to the gun. And of course, in front of the unarmed faithful. And that always cracks me up. Always cracks me up that no guns in the gun orgy. Shooting blanks. Nothing there. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Now, what I do find interesting on Gun Orgy Day, all the people who come out with their, we've got to be more outrageous, more gun than the last person. And this is how we've gotten to the crazy place where we're at with guns. All of the fetishists and the addicts and the junkies, gotta have it. And it's because we have these policy leaders who want the money. But the right wing of this country has gone way off the flippin' end, and they want guns everywhere. In fact, you had Kristi Noem, who, there's a bunch of outrageous stuff in there, but you have Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, who came to Indiana to sign an executive order for South Dakota in Indiana, saying that Indiana would not, or South Dakota would not deal with any corporation, any bank that doesn't support guns. I don't quite know how you're going to enforce that, but it doesn't matter. It's the platitude. It's the hey, look at me, look what I'm doing for you, gun fetishists. I hope your rod is stiff. Because this is what this is about. Now, she didn't stop just there. Oh, no. Evidently, she has a nearly 2-year-old granddaughter. And this nearly 2-year-old, nearly, not quite 2, already has a shotgun, and she already has a rifle. Okay. Isn't it, when I was a kid, this is where, parents would go, what the hell's wrong with you? What is wrong with people who are going to put deadly things in front of their children? No, we want them to stroke it, and they want them to be comforted by it, like the rest of us. It's quite amusing, to be honest. But we're in this weird world, and look, I'm not anti-gun, and I say it all the time. I've got one within arm's reach. I'm not anti-gun. I'm anti where we're going with guns. I mean, you had Mike Pence in his own state, and I love this, being booed by the faithful, because I guess not gun enough, not mega enough. I don't know. In fact, so bad that he had to start his speech off with, "I love you too," which is the right response in that. When everybody is booing you, you got to say something. Words have to be spoken. But Pence, going to the, we need to go to the extreme. We need more. We need to be more hardcore. Well, he in his speech said that he's tired of senseless violence, tired of it, and the loss of life that could be prevented if our leaders would support law enforcement, protect our schools, institutionalize the obviously mentally ill, and enact legislation that would ensure that anyone who engages in these heinous acts of mass violence meets their fate in months, not years. Quick little aside, the whole, we're going to kill them. most mass shooters, they don't make it out of the event. So we've already we're kind of doing that already, but this did get some applause. Yeah, we're going to kill people. Remember, the pro-life crowd, all in favor of killing people. Now again, it's not the gun. The gun didn't do all this stuff. It's all these other things. We need to support law enforcement. This is the pro-life party who in Florida, side note, lawmakers there approved a bill that would lower the threshold for the state to use the death penalty. No longer has to be unanimous jury for a death penalty. If one guy says death penalty, we're taking him out back and frying him. Actually, they need 8 of the 12 is what the legislation says. But again, this is the pro-life party. This is the Jesus party. Remember this. Now, Donald Trump, he gave his little spiel, I guess, too. Called for a national concealed carry agreement, reciprocity across state lines. He said, just like your driver's license or your marriage license, your Second Amendment must apply across state lines. And it got me to thinking, most Trumpers I know, now that I'm thinking about it, when they cross state lines, got to empty out the car because you can't take booze across state lines. You can't take cigarettes across state lines in large numbers. No pot, no guns. Eventually, I think they're going to get to, no, take all your vices with you. And I guess maybe that's something that to vote for him for. I don't know. But I'm in this mindset where the Republicans want us to have guns everywhere because there's some belief in whatever patchwork of ideology that they've got that more guns equates to safety. And I think Jon Stewart hit it right. When do we hit, peak gun? When does, having, what do we got? Like 5 guns for every person in this country now? When do we hit that safety point? And the reality is never. I mean, we're going to have people do bad things with guns because they're easily accessible. I'm expecting at some point there to be vending machines for guns. And I know there's somebody, I know I probably just gave a Republican an idea. Oh boy, we can put him in the lunchroom at school. Yes, that'll keep schools safe. Because again, we want cops in every school. Okay, if you want cops in every school, where's the funding bill? Where's the funding bill to do that? Again, lots of nice words. We're going to put cops in every corner. Who's going to pay for it? Well, we're going to arm the teachers. Teachers don't want to be armed. They want to be able to have the resources to teach their class. How about we get them books and computers? Oh, no, we can't trust a teacher with a book. No. But a Glock? Sign them right up. And this is the weird thing. And here's my problem. These folks want everyone carrying concealed weapons, and every incident ends up the shots being thrown. And I look at this thing that happened in Florida. I talked about it, I think, about a week ago, where you had 2 idiots in a road rage incident throwing shots at each other because somebody, I don't know, threw a cup at the other guy and someone said bad words, made his butt hurt. I don't know what went on, but I know that they ended up shooting at each other and missing each other. Now, I would have been perfectly okay had they hit each other, canceled each other out. We'd be done with both of them. But no. They hit each of the other's kids. I think it was a 5-year-old who got hit in the leg and a 14-year-old that got, shot in the back and had a collapsed lung. Those are the people who suffered. These 2 idiots going, I can't take words. I got to shoot at each other. This is the world we're going to now. Concealed carry across all lines. Don't worry, everybody. Get the 2-year-old with a gun. Thanks, Christy Nome. Thanks for that. And what's interesting to me is I've talked about this in the past, where we're getting to a point that I shared a story. This has been a while ago. My son and I were heading down the road, returning a van that we rented. Had some moving to do, and we rented this van, and I'm at a stoplight, and this guy who had been tailgating me, losing his mind, comes up to the window and just starts screaming at me. I'm not sure why, but I just reached out the window and I pushed him in the face and pushed him away from the vehicle and drove off. I asked the question back then, would I have in conservative land, in stand my ground territory, would I have been able to shoot him? Because, I had no idea what the guy's intentions were. I was in fear of my child's life. I could even say I was in fear of my life. I wasn't, but because I've been in those situations before where, when I was a younger man, we were rolling around in the middle of the street, slapping each other around because someone did something stupid. That happens. But we're now in a world where that's never going to happen again. People are not going to slap each other around. People are not going to roll around on the ground and get up and go, boy, that was dumb, get back in their cars and drive off. No, we're going to shoot each other. And I'm looking at this, the right wing losing their mind over this Daniel Perry in Texas. For those who don't know, Daniel Perry was driving an Uber, or I guess it's Uber, and there was a crowd of Black Lives Matters protesters. And he had written on his Facebook page that, couldn't wait for this. And look, I know a bunch of people who've said, if I'm ever in that position, I'm just going to run them over. And look, there are now laws, thank you, Florida, that if there's a protest going on in front of you, you can run the people over. All you got to do is claim, I was in fear of my life. And you can just run them right over. Because again, we're going to take that cop logic. I'm always afraid of my life, so I've got to shoot first, we'll ask questions later. Well, this is what this Daniel Perry admitted to. Because evidently this Garrett Foster, who was an Air Force veteran, had an AK-47 at the protest, because it's Texas, why not? You've got Perry, who's got a gun in his car, driving into this crowd. Now the response is, well, this Garrett Foster came aggressively to the car with his AK-47. He admitted on tape during the interview it was not pointed at him. Now, this is where I've often said, you've got two idiots. There's some heat going on. I may have to shoot you just because. I may have to shoot first because I have to fear that you're going to shoot me first. So now we're going to start dueling in the streets. Now, this guy, rightfully so, as I see it, was found guilty. He admitted the guy didn't point a gun at him. He just pulled out I guess like 5 shots. And when they went back and looked at all his social media posts, and again, people, stop writing your hatred down. Because here's the thing, much like your Miranda rights when you talk to a cop, social media can and most certainly will be used against you in a court of law. So all of the things that Perry put on his websites and on those crazy, 4chans or wherever he was, bit him in the behind. Because he came off as a racist. He came off as someone who would do exactly what he said he would do. And he did it. So this is one of those moments where I have to ask, when do we as a society say, we've gone too far with this? Look, I'm in favor of people having guns in their home, protecting their homes. If you're really flipped out by it, I'm not quite sure on the concealed carry stuff because it leads to this kind of stuff. And my problem has always been, from the beginning, when two idiots start throwing shots at each other, I know if I'm nearby, they're going to both hit me. And they're going to walk away scot-free. Because I go back to that story of the two guys in Florida, the one who shot the 5-year-old, the one who shot the 14-year-old. Evidently, the guy who shot one of the kids isn't going to be charged with anything. That kid had nothing to do with it. But because it was ruled, we ruled that the other person acted in self-defense because I guess there was a cup thrown or something. Instead of just saying, your responsibility is to get away. And if you're backed into a corner, this is where this stand your ground law stuff is really dangerous. If you don't have to make an effort to get away, then you're going to have more of these shootings. And I got to wonder how many people are thinking like I am. The next time someone raises their voice, next time someone walks at me aggressively, might have to shoot them. Because I don't know anymore. I'm curious your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
So on Thursday, Vice President Kamala Harris wrapped up the Biden administration's Invest in America tour. Did that in Washington, D.C. at the I-395 Arland D. Williams Jr. Memorial Bridge. That's the bridge that connects Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. I've been on it a million times. Needs help. And she announced a $72 million bit of funding to help repair that bridge. Something like 90,000 people a day cross over that bridge. But she also, while they're on Thursday talking about that bridge, talked about the fact that $300 million in bipartisan infrastructure bill funding has been allocated to bridges across 8 states and the District of Columbia. They're going to be either repaired or replaced. Now, this was the last stop on the administration's 3-week Invest in America tour, as I said. But it's been reported that, you can't get a lot of information because our media structure just didn't care. But it's been reported that some 20 representatives of the administration were out traveling to more than 50 cities across the country, across 25 states, to talk about the $435 billion in funding that are going to fund 23,000 projects across the country in 4,500 cities. Many of those cities that didn't vote for Biden. Now, again, you look at the fact that our bridges and our infrastructure, our roads and stuff falling down. I guess as of right now, the number is something like 4,600 of the nation's bridges have been or are currently being repaired or replaced. This is enormous. And this is something that, our mainstream media, no, we've got to talk about things that divide us. This is the stuff that we should be thrilled about. That we're getting good infrastructure in our communities, we're getting good jobs for people in our communities, and all of that positive movement that brings us back into the middle of the road. I often say, the one thing that I when a new road comes in, I'm thrilled because I now know I'm not going to have to align my front end again. But where I live in Pennsylvania, the pothole capital of the U.S., yeah, that happens a lot. So the fact that we're doing something on infrastructure is incredibly important to me. And look, it was one of the things that I said from the beginning of the Trump administration. Had Trump's first piece of legislation been, a massive infrastructure bill, had he focused on that stuff, he would have been unbeatable in 2020. Had he focused on bringing jobs and focused on making communities better off, had he done that, had he put aside all the nonsense and the stupidity and all of the shows, because I'll be honest, he puts on a nice party, especially on taxpayers' money, puts on a really nice party, a really nice show of Infrastructure Week, if you remember, but we didn't do anything. And this is why I'm thrilled to see that Biden is doing this. And it's what we need to be doing. And I had someone again, tell me, well, we can't afford this. And you go, we absolutely can. And we could afford much more if it weren't for how insane our tax code is. As we talked about earlier in the week, just the Bush tax cuts and the Trump tax cuts alone were $10 trillion. Trillion with a T. $10 trillion. We could have easily done everything on the American Society of Civil Engineers wish list. We could have even done fantasy stuff. You could have gone to the engineers and go, if you woke up in the middle of a dream, what would you fund? We would have that kind of money. But sadly, what we're seeing is just a massive redistribution of wealth from working people to the very wealthy through our tax code, through the greedflation we're all suffering from. And I saw, Biden put out I think it was an Instagram post saying that, inflation is down from its peak. And I think he said 45% from its peak. No, things are coming down and that's good. But not fast enough. Not fast enough for working people. And I want hearings. I want lots of hearings to go after these corporations. Because as we've been talking about, I think one of the biggest stories that's not being discussed at all is this French economist, this Albert Edwards, who is the global strategist for this Societe Generale Bank, saying, look, in all of his years, he's never seen anything like the unprecedented and astonishing levels of corporate greed. And look, we've always had corporate greed, but not like this. And as he said, look, if the super normal profit margins that we see now, if that becomes the norm, he says, look, it's going to inflame social unrest. If working people can't afford to keep a roof over their head, understand 39% of working people are missing a meal to pay their rents or pay their mortgages. In the wealthiest country in the world, that's unacceptable. And as he said, we may be looking at the end of capitalism. And I've been saying this for a while. When a handful control the unimaginable amount of wealth that they have in their hands and are able to do whatever it is that they want to us, when do the pitchforks come out? When do people start pushing back? Now, you could say that's what Trump was, and I agree. Trump, to a degree, was a pushback to our loss of manufacturing jobs, to the fact that communities are broken because those factories abandoned them. I was right there, and still am. I still believe those communities need to be dealt with because they're not enough. But the credit I give Biden is there's money going into those places now. And I've had friends who say, you know what, the heck with those red counties, the heck with those red states, screw them. And there's a part of me that goes, you know what, screw them. But if we're going to be the United States, we got to be united. And we got to find those things that bring us together. Jobs, infrastructure, those things bring us together. We've got to stop being allowed to be divided on this stuff. And for me, let's talk tax code. I've said for a long time, we should be cutting taxes at the bottom, raising them at the top. Much like the good socialist President Dwight David Eisenhower, who invested enormously in infrastructure and had a top marginal tax rate of 92% on individuals making over, I think it's like $1.6 million in today's dollars. Corporations over a certain percentage were paying a 56% tax rate. We weren't massively in debt. We were paying for our wars. We were investing in our future. And we didn't have oligarchs who controlled everything we touch. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and My day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt, but I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.